Greetings, viewers. Today's updates revolve around recent decisions regarding the Middle East conflict. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has announced the dispatch of a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier battle group, the USS, to the eastern Mediterranean Sea. This is in response to Israel's state of war declaration and consequent decision for substantial military actions following attacks from Hamas. The aircraft carrier in question, the USS Rad Aor, is the latest addition to the U.S. Navy fleet. Housing approximately 5,000 sailors and an array of combat aircraft, it's a marvel of nuclear energy, to be accompanied by destroyer ships and missile-carrying cruisers. The presence of U.S. aircraft carrier battle groups in this region is perceived as a way to deter threats from Hezbollah in Lebanon and other armed groups opposing Israel. The U.S. is concurrently escalating the presence of combat aircraft in the region, deploying F-35, F-15, F-16, and A-10 squadrons. These movements are reactions to the activities of Iranian-backed groups across the region, including Syria and Oman. U.S. President Joe Biden on October 7th voiced support for Israel and cautioned against hostility towards the nation. The attacks are interpreted as attempts to weaken Hamas, much like Hezbollah, both of which are recognized as terrorist organizations by the United States, the European Union, and Israel. The U.S. is also supplementing assistance to Israel, expressing concern for those impacted by the conflict. Discussions are in progress to prevent Israel's adversaries from capitalizing on the situation. The extent of Iran's involvement in the recent attacks on Israel remains uncertain. However, it is known that Hamas receives support and weaponry from Iran. In a bid to mitigate tensions, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has proposed assistance. On October 7th, Israel was targeted with a series of rocket attacks, accompanied by a volley of missiles. Despite possessing advanced Iron Dome defense system, it seems Israel was unable to fully neutralize the attacks from Hamas. Some rockets were intercepted, but not all, particularly during the heavy onslaught. A military analyst noted that the defense system has limitations in terms of area coverage and number of incoming missiles. Moreover, the cost of intercepting a missile with the Iron Dome significantly surpassed the cost of Hamas's missiles. The system, active since 2011, is still notable for its radar capabilities and intercepting prowess. The Iron Dome can evaluate the threat level of incoming missiles and avoid unnecessary interception. Hamas, the Gaza Strip, since 2007, and has been implicated in multiple conflicts with Israel. Iran has furnished support to Hamas for their aim of establishing an independent Palestinian state. Hamas has been operating a network of underground tunnels along the Egyptian border in Gaza for smuggling weaponry, despite Israel's sanction and military responses. The most recent conflict took place in 2021, following tensions in Jerusalem due to an Israeli security forces raid on the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, a significant site for Muslims. This escalated into rocket attacks from Hamas and Israeli airstrikes, causing casualties on both sides. In the recent Israeli conflict, 14 civilians and 1 military personnel lost their lives on the Israeli side. A high-rise building in Gaza, housing offices for news agencies like AP and Al Jazeera, was destroyed by Israel. The conflict in 2021, which lasted 11 days, concluded with a ceasefire mediated by Egypt. On October 7th, an incident occurred where Hamas initiated a significant attack on Israel. This caused substantial damage, breached Israel's border barriers, and infiltrated Israeli communities along the Gaza border. As a result, Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, indicated that the situation could lead to a long and complex conflict. Israeli fighter jets responded by bombing Gaza, with strikes aimed at high-rise buildings and residential areas. Hamas, the main armed faction involved, is part of a regional alliance that includes Iran, Syria, and Hezbollah in Lebanon. These organizations are generally against U.S. policies in the Middle East and Israel. Hamas often collaborates with Islamic Jihad, another significant armed faction in the region, against Israel. Both are central members of the Joint Operations Room, coordinating military operations among different armed factions in Gaza. Despite some tensions arising from Hamas pressuring Islamic Jihad not to launch attacks against Israel, a senior Hamas spokesman, Osama Hamdan, has stated that their group does not intentionally target civilians. He was quoted saying, "You must differentiate between settlers and civilians. We have declared that settlers are part of the occupation and part of the armed forces of Israel. They are not civilians." This concludes our program's recent updates. We appreciate your interest and encourage you to stay tuned for around-the-clock information. Goodbye, and we look forward to welcoming you back soon.